God is an artist par excellence. Now that's an important assertion, okay, because an artist loves his artwork. And so if the artist loves the creation, then that creation will be invested with the artist's own identity. So immediately you have the motivation for consciousness trapping itself in its own creative forms rather than remaining in the formless, unmirrored presence. So, God has painted the picturesque universe on the screen of his own immutable and glowing spirit. So, the world, the cosmos, is painted on the screen of God's own mind, not on some canvas that is external to God. So, even though Swami Ramdas is positing a God who loves duality in the sense of a creator loving a creation, that creation is internal to the creator, not external. So it is an apparent duality, but it is only duality to the creation, not to the creator. Okay, so there's already a double vision that is brought about through the emanation of the information contained in God's infinite intelligence that produces an illusion, like a dream within the mind of God, that is not external to the artistry and the intelligence of the Creator. So he is at once the painter and the painted. In the ultimate analysis, God and his lover, God and his devotee and servant are he. So the apparent duality is only for the purpose of bringing about the sublime feeling of divine love. It has no other purpose. The love that is the appreciation of beauty, of truth, of the expression of all the permutations of the potentiality of infinite creative imagination. All of that is enabled through the creation by God of an illusory cosmos. The unmanifest, which is beyond all duality, has become both. This secret few know. Okay? So Swami Ramdas is explaining to us that he knows the secret. He's not confused about this. But there is an inherent oscillation between the truth and the illusion that is created by the love of the creation that brings about a trapping of consciousness, a forgetfulness, an ignorance, an avidya, which results from the very love that creates the desire to be loved and the maintaining of the tension of duality. But that tension is part of the beauty of non-duality. So discrimination, I think he probably means viveka here, discernment, which is the power granted by God to distinguish the real from the unreal, awoke me. So now a third element is being brought in. We have the artist, we have the artwork, and we have the ability to understand and interpret the artwork. Without that third element, it would be like someone completely uncultivated going to a museum looking at pieces of art and not even having a sense of any meaningfulness or value or purpose or any understanding of the cultural significance and the coded information contained in those creations. So that power of discernment has to be awakened. But that power of discernment is what awakens as well. Okay? The me that he's saying that awoke was the aspect of consciousness trapped in creation. And then an insight, an awareness, a discernment of the depth dimension of his own being enabled him to see himself and his life as a work of art from a perspective beyond that self. This is the grace that worked from within. And then the grace came from without, the grace from the Guru. So in other words, once the internal grace of the creative imagination is awakened, it activates synchronicities within the field of creation to bring about an understanding on the level of the symbolic order by awakened beings who confirm and validate the reality of that which does not appear. And it's that symbolic capacity, the radius, the movement from chronos time, the linear change into the changeless understanding of eternal truth, archetypal truth, that comes from without confirming the within, that enabled him to stabilize. And as he said, this grace completed the circuit. So there's a circuit from creator to creation, from center to circumference, through the radius of that knowledge which expresses the significance and the meaning of the creation from the perspective of the creator. And through that, one is able to leave the imaginary register of the ego that cannot understand what all of this is about, and falls into the illusions of fear and anxiety and duality of good and evil, right and wrong, and is confused about the nature of what one should do, to that level of understanding that gives one a perspective from the position of the creator, whose mind is already attributed with, qualified by truth and beauty, so that the Tao of instantaneous and spontaneous action that is the work of the artist painting on the palette becomes the way of life that is now organized from the source of the energy now that the circuit is complete. So sadhana done to bring about this contact resulted in a flood of illumination. Through the radius of symbolic understanding, he reached the real. He reached the light that is beyond thought, that is beyond duality. Now the aspirant is lost in God, in divine rapture and peace. I would say he's no longer an aspirant. He doesn't aspire to the light. He has now reached it and becomes a vehicle of that creative artistry in his own right. God is love, knowledge, and power. He made me realize him first as love. Okay? Duality, love. First there has to be that appreciation of the beauty and the infinite intelligence that underlies and permeates the movement of reality itself. That then gives the knowledge, the symbolic understanding of God consciousness and the ways of liberating oneself from the forms of life that maintain an attachment to the illusion and prevent the constant completion of the circuit of empowerment. And once the knowledge is then activated, power flows into one's life from that source in God. Now my life entire is fulfilled in Him, so much so that my life has become His life and being. So once the realization of the creative imagination that has brought about the form of the body, of the intelligence, of the ability to think and feel and act, has been recognized at the level of the source, an entirely different level of consciousness then from the source now activates the body. And the created entity of the ego with name and form disappears and dissolves back into this infinite non-dual energy that is creating all and animating all beings toward their own illumination, which is the work of grace.